What is going on? Pardon my pancreas listeners. I got an exciting guest for you today, and I am pumped to have this conversation. We actually had a previous conversation, went into some great detail, but today we're going to dive into some fun topics that I know you guys will appreciate. Now, I've got Dr. Nikki with me, and she's a type 1 diabetic, which as a result led her into a PhD in holistic health and nutrition. She supports diabetics in personalized low glycemic meals, exercise routines, and most importantly, shifting their mindset. That's what we're talking about today, so that the compliance is easy and diabetes is seen as a blessing instead of a curse. She said she also works with clients to uncover the deep-rooted beliefs and triggers that lead to sabotaging behaviors, such as comfort food and alcohol that lead to elevated blood sugars, and then uses subconscious reprogramming tools to deactivate the triggers and easily adopt healthy alternatives. In other words, she shows them how to use diabetes to serve their personal growth. And I cannot wait to jump into these topics. Thank you so much for hanging out, Dr. Nikki.
What a treat to be here. Such an honor, and thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. I know we had a fun chat last time, but I didn't get to ask you a lot of questions. So I'm glad that we have this opportunity to dig into your specific beliefs and knowledge bases and experiences to really pull apart the strategies here. I would love to just give our audience kind of a brief intro into who you are as far as like your life with diabetes. Can you tell us a little bit about when you were diagnosed and kind of what you've been going through since then?
Yeah, sure. Diagnosed at 29 years old, which is obviously rare and very interesting. It led me down a path of exploration, which was the blessing of really uncovering what led to it. And one scientist explained it to me in a way that I could really understand. Is if our body was like a cup represented how much our body could tolerate. And you fill the cup with, let's say, adverse childhood experiences, and then alcohol exposure and mold and all the different things that add to causing type 1 diabetes. At some point, it breaks at the genetic weakest link. And that's why diabetes comes about. We create the perfect environment for it to be manifested. Does that make sense? So
yeah.
The way it was explained was, it just gave a lot of clarity as to it, because it's never just one thing. And we're just told, oh, it's just genetic. Here's your insulin. But you actually have to create the environment for your genes to be expressed. Bruce Lipton, that scientist, has done a lot of work on that level. If you read his book, The Biology, what was it called? Have you heard of it? The Science of Biology or something like that. Bruce Lipton, look him up. He's brilliant scientist. Yeah. And he explains all about the epigenetics and how you need the environment to express your genes. Mm-hmm. And so, so even if you're born with type 1 diabetes, that can be, the mother may have created the perfect environment for the baby to then come out with type 1. Yeah, it's really fascinating. So anyway, back to my journey with type 1 has been very interesting. What I realized after studying a PhD in holistic health and nutrition, I shifted my diet, and reducing all the fat in my diet actually gave me a lot more control. But more importantly was when I did the work on my psychology, and I release the limiting beliefs of not good enough. Because what happened is every time I got triggered by my mother or something in my life that kind of triggered that sense of, oh, wow, I'm messing up here. I'm not doing good enough. I would turn to food, and then my blood sugars would be out of control.
Oh,
yeah. So as soon as when I started doing all the deep work of letting go of that inner dialogue that was really keeping me stuck, those limiting beliefs, those like deprecating limiting beliefs. Yeah. That's when I had much better control of my blood sugars. It was wild. So it all plays in. It's not just one thing.
Right. Well, and that's why I love the holistic approach, right? And how you went that route instead of just traditional medicine, looking at what pills can I take. It's like, no, it's all encompassing. It's got a lot of different areas into it that we have to focus on and really take care of, which leads us into that personal growth aspect as well, right? You can't just like eat the same diet and like that's going to fix everything. Our mind has a huge role in all of this and how we take care of ourselves. So Really curious to hear about your thoughts on that. And as far as the nutrition route, I guess we can hit that one first, since you mentioned you switched your diet up, you reduced your fat. Is there a specific protocol or method of eating that you use or diet that you follow?
I've been plant-based since I was 15. Started that for moral reasons and the health, of course. But moral is what really kept me connected. If I can survive without causing harm, that's the route I chose. But what studies have now shown is that the high fat, when you're consuming a lot of fat, what happens is your cells will naturally soak that fat in, because fat is much more efficient fuel than sugar in terms of it being 9 times more potent. So for 1 gram, let's say 1 molecule of fat has 9 times the energy than a molecule of sugar. So the cells will naturally soak it in, and they don't need an insulin to soak that in. So if your cells soak in all that fat, it's like kind of like filling your gas tank with fuel. It doesn't need any more fuel, and it will close the doors. So then the blood sugars, your sugar stays in your bloodstream. Does that make sense? That's one theory. The other theory is that the fat will coat your cells and actually block the insulin receptors. Mm-hmm. Either one leads to the same conclusion, that a high fat diet results in a high level of insulin resistance.
Right.
Yeah. So when you bring the fat down to ideally around 10%, which is quite a challenge to do, but it is actually, but if you cut out the oils or things that are like purely concentrated fat, if you take oil, for example, they have removed the protein, fiber, and carbohydrates have been stripped away, and you're left with pure 100% fat. That is not how nature intended. That is not the quantity that our bodies are intending to experience. And you're taking away all the other coefficients that go along with fat that helps you process and use that fat in an efficient way. So better to take an actual olive and blend it up and put that on your salad than using olive oil. It's this high concentration. It was shared with me once that a basic salad would be about 150 calories. 2 tablespoons of olive oil turns it into a 600 calorie salad.
Right.
So just oils, if you took oils off your menu altogether, that would reduce your fat content by significant amounts.
Well, I love that. And I didn't realize that you had been plant-based before you were diabetic. So it wasn't like I'm doing plant-based to fix my blood sugars. It was like, no, I'm already plant-based at diagnosis. I'm going to continue this. But then you went further, of course, to remove a large portion of the fat. I did something similar. Went plant-based, low-fat, that whole thing. And I found that it reduced my insulin needs by 70%. It was
wow.
And that's, of course, because beforehand I was eating a lot of meat, lots and lots of fat. So there was a lot to lose as far as insulin resistance. But it is wild how our body reacts to those dietary shifts. So looking at your current lifestyle, then you're still plant-based, still low fat. And I did the 10% rule too. That is difficult to remove 90%. Or to keep fats at 10% or less of your macronutrients. Right. But it's wildly effective. So how has that maybe had an impact on your coaching or on your educating?
Well, so just to point out one important thing there, is what my experience with that was that when I took that fat out, what would have taken 4 units to eat a banana took 1.
Right.
I mean, and I was able to eat 10 pieces of fruit. I was the leanest I've ever been. And it was delicious. I was in heaven. Fruit is delicious. Right?
It is.
And it's loaded with nutrients. We need those phytonutrients, all the antioxidants to keep you young. Fruit is essential in your diet. So very important. How that shifted my coaching is I've supported my clients in seeing where the fat is hiding. There's a lot of fat hiding, obviously, in fried food. That should be completely off the plate, right? But if you actually looked at a lot of the lower sugar have high fat. So you've got to learn to read the ingredients and really read the labels. And most ideally is not even buy things that have label. Go shopping at a farmer's market and buy what grows out of the land.
There you
because
go.
those are the most natural states of food that have the right quantities of protein, fats, and sugar and fiber that we need.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I love that you mentioned the fried foods too. So when I was vegan for a while, and during that process, I think it was also kind of a fad where a lot of people were like, "I'll try the vegan thing," right? And because it got so popular, all these different vegan restaurants started popping up in California. So it really took off in LA and San Diego.
Yeah.
But you go and you like really dissect what the food is, and you're like, "Wait, this isn't healthy." At all. We're adding everything deep fried. It's like technically, I think like Oreos are vegan. I had a friend who was like, "I'm vegan," and he would eat Oreos for breakfast, and I'm like, "This isn't healthy. Why do you think this is a good thing?" So always finding that the true source of health and not just the label of it's quote unquote vegan, but it's like, no, this is truly plant sourced, plant based. This is organic. It's got all these great things. I think it's a huge distinction for a lot of people.
Yeah, you can be a very unhealthy vegan. I mean, all the processed vegan foods, like the fake meats, a lot of them are textured wheat-based proteins and not healthy products at all. But there are some that are really good. So you've got to read the ingredients. You really have to know. And even if you're on the healthy side of vegan and eating all plant-based, a lot of it is nut seed crackers with a nut seed pate. And so they use a lot of nuts as a replacement for meat to kind of create that meaty sensation. And so really high on the fat. Nuts should be a very small portion of your diet.
Absolutely. Yeah. Wild to think about, but each diet has its own pitfalls just like that, right? Where it's like, oh, you think you're making the right decisions, but marketing has proven that it's more effective than the actual nutritional labels. So yeah, good to look into for anybody who's curious about that. But on the other side of this is your mental shift, your psychological shift, obviously looking into the mindset behind T1D. Where did that come into play? It was like at diagnosis day, you're like, I'm going to beat this. I'm going to figure out everything. I'm super determined. Or did it take some time for you to kind of find the mindset side of diabetes?
I would say it took me 10 years, to be honest. If I were completely honest, I would say it took me 10 years of self-sabotage. I went into battle with diabetes. Who's in control? Me or the diabetes, right? I had that war in my head. Every time I wanted a cookie, which I wanted a lot, I'm very much a free spirit and I indulge in the sweetness of life. And so for me to all of a sudden be told I can't have the things that I want to have, I went to war in my head. And it became this literally, it was like, who's in control? Me or the diabetes? I'd eat the cookie. And then sure enough, I'm falling like a tree and sugars are high and I'm exhausted. But I was not okay with it a lot. And the other thing I experienced was that there were often days where I did everything really good. I ate really clean. I worked out really hard and my sugars were still high. And then I felt completely defeated. I felt like yet again, no matter what I do, it's not good enough. There's a recreation of my childhood, right? And so give me the cookie. And I'd go back into self-sabotage.
Right.
So what this did for me, and I kind of alluded there, is it pointed out there's this inner world that I really had to look at. And if I'm recreating my childhood with diabetes, there was one podcast I listened to, and they suggested asking what your disease, how does it make you feel? And if you really close your eyes, take a deep breath and tuned into this for a second, how does diabetes make you feel? For me, it was defeated. It felt like no matter what I do, it's not good enough. That is a complete recreation of my childhood. That's how I felt in my childhood. No matter what I did for my mama, she always had some kind of criticism or comment, and in her mind, she was trying to improve or help me see how I could do it better, right? Her intentions were great. My little brain at that 6-year-old state was like, wow, I can never do anything right. And diabetes actually gave me this opportunity to look at that. And now every blood sugar reading that I get that says 200, I get to go, I either can go into self-sabotaging thoughts like, wow, look at, yet again, here's the indication I've got in my face. result showing how I failed. Or I could choose to tune in and say, okay, put my hand on my heart. What is it I actually need right now? And maybe it's some self-love. Maybe it's to go for a walk. Maybe it's not that cookie. It's to call a friend for support. And right. And so then diabetes now is my opportunity to tune in and to check in and be like, oh, okay, I'm emotionally off track right now. And I'm craving food, comfort food, or any of the coping mechanisms that are going to lead me to high blood sugars. And so how is this actually an opportunity for me to check in and see how I can choose a different coping mechanism that actually will serve me? Like a walk, like taking deep breaths, like focusing on what I want to create in my life instead of what's going wrong.
So it sounds like the first step of this journey was awareness of like, oh, that's what's going on. That's leading me into these decision-making processes. It was a childhood thing showing itself in my diabetes, and it's just continuing on. So how do I stop this? I need to choose a different coping mechanism. Is that right so far?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in choosing a coping mechanism, then how can people, or how are you more intentional with coping mechanisms instead of falling into a feedback loop or just like, following similar patterns?
Excellent question. The easiest way to do it is preemptively to decide how you will handle the trigger. You know what your triggers are. Your mom, your spouse, your kids, your boss, right? Financial scenarios. I mean, we all have the same triggers, or we all have triggers that are common to us every day. And so Brendan Burchard has the daily planner that is brilliant. And one of the questions he has in there is, what is something that you know will trip you up today? What is something that could happen that will trip you up today? My kids are going to throw a temper tantrum. My mother is going to say somehow I'm doing something that's not good enough. My boss isn't going to acknowledge me. My spouse isn't going to support me. How do you want to handle it? And in your calm state of mind, decide how you want to handle that trigger. Commit to, okay, when I get that sensation of not good enough, I'm going to call my best friend. I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to take a few deep breaths. I'm going to drink a big giant thing of water. I mean, whatever. There's a whole long list of things that you can do. I'm going to dance. I'm going to put my favorite music on and dance my ass off for a minute, right? You can change your state by moving your body very quickly. Get in nature. I mean, that's the ultimate tool. Go sit by a river. It will pull all of your sorrows out.
100%.
Right? So preemptively deciding how you will manage it is one really powerful tool. I, with my clients, I like to work with a clicker. And this is, you introduced speaking about how to rewire the subconscious. And this is one of the most powerful tools. I paid a coach $25,000 to work with him once. And this clicker is what I got out of it. And my health talk show. It was worth it. I started a health talk show thanks to him. But this clicker supported me in shifting my mindset and keeping me focused on where I want to go. And so often our brains are designed to keep us safe by focusing on what we don't want.
Right.
So we want to move away from pain. And to some degree, you have to focus on the pain or what you should fear so that you keep it away. But what you're actually doing in that state is you're bringing it towards you. You're creating more of it because we're a magnet, right? We're a magnet for what we think about. And so this clicker supports you in focusing on where you want to go and who you want to be to get there, who you need to be to get there. And why it works so well. If you're interested, should I share?
I'd love to hear it. Yeah.
Okay. So it's a physical clicker, just like what the bouncers have at the clubs to count how many people come into the club, right? Super simple. By having this object in your hand, I put it in my less dominant hand and I just keep it there for as long as I can. And by having it in my hand, it reminds me to repeat the mantra that I create. So I support my clients in creating a really powerful mantra that is founded in emotion, and you have to bring emotion in. So the subconscious gets rewired by repetition and emotion.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the two essential ingredients, right? So if you can repeat many times what you want to create in your life, you will create it. I'll back up a moment. We have 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. I don't know who's counted, but supposedly that's the number.
Wow.
And they say somewhere between 80 and 95% of those are repetitive. So there's plenty of opportunity to consciously direct 500 thoughts.
Yeah.
Right? But if you tried right now, Matt, I need you to focus and think about one thing 500 times right now for the next hour. Whew. Could you do it without any support?
That would be tricky, especially with the ADD brain I got.
Yeah, and your kids and you're going to go in every other direction. No chance.
Yeah.
But having this in your hand, you can do it. And so that's just holding it keeps you connected. Then after you say your mantra, you click. That sound is the Pavlovian response. It's one of the ways the brain learns is through sound. And so it's giving your brain like an audible clap, essentially. It's a reward for you thinking that thought. Wow. So you say the mantra, you click, and then you get a visual measurement of success with the number.
Interesting.
Tony Robbins talks about visible measurement. He wants you to measure your results, right? So I've got 1,300 times I've clicked on what I want to create in my life. So it literally works in the three ways your brain learns: repetition, sound, and visual. It is the most powerful little tool possible to reprogram your subconscious and get you focused and connected and directing your brain on where you want to go. And I will tell you, if you start your day every day with one of my favorite, and it's so simple and it sounds silly, but I will tell you it works like magic. I am a lean money-making machine. Let me play with you for a moment, because I am a lean money-making machine. You say that 500 times. Let's just, even if you said it 30, first thing in the morning. What I experienced was throughout the day, because I've associated with being lean, I wouldn't choose the things that would not make me lean. I'm a lean money-making machine. So lean people don't eat cookies. Right? And then I'm a money-making machine. So every time I go to spend, I'm not a spending machine. I'm a making machine. So it actually had this double effect. I got two whammies in one, right? Where I would choose much more wisely with my food, and I would choose how I spent my money, and I then became a magnet for more money flowing in. Unbelievably powerful.
I love that you mentioned Tony Robbins too, because this sounds really familiar to his like neurolinguistic programming. He's really happy about that, and he puts a lot of focus on it. But a couple questions on this. So one, you're using the clicker, like you said, Pavlovian response. Love that visual metric, right? Lots of different benefits there. Would you have a separate clicker for different mantras, or is it a collection of all the mantras that you said?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. All together.
Okay.
This is just you moving in the direction that you want, and it's a visual number of it. Yeah. Okay. I work with different ones. Some days I work on my confidence, and I remind myself, I click through all the things that I love about myself. Some days I need to remember that one of my favorite mantras, this came to me after I sat with some shamans in Colombia, and it was, "This moment is my medicine." This moment is my medicine. This moment is my medicine. It works both positive. All of a sudden I heard the birds more. I felt the breeze on my skin. Someone yelled out, "Amor." And I heard it with like such clarity and vibrancy. It hit me and I felt it. It works when someone's yelling at you. This moment is my medicine. How could I actually take this moment as my medicine? Oh, it's my opportunity maybe to practice some patience or some compassion for whatever this man's going through. Right? This moment is my medicine. It's a powerful one. Another one that supported my clients a lot is everything is always working out for me. Everything is always working out for me. He was having a bitter divorce with his business partner, and he clicked, and his nervous system was going into way overdrive, freaking out. He was getting sued, all of it. Right?
Wow.
And he started clicking, everything is always working out for me. And within a few hours, he was able to calm his nervous system and find the perfect solution. And the whole thing turned around. You can't make decisions. Tony Robbins talks about this also. You can't make decisions wisely in a triggered state. You just can't. Right. You're gonna respond with explosions and reactions and your childhood traumas and your patterns and your beliefs and right. You don't. But when you calm yourself down and you get back into your prefrontal cortex, that CEO part of your brain in the front that can make rational decisions, that is when you can really find the solutions very easily and quickly. Really important.
Absolutely. I was actually talking to my wife last night about dealing with stressful events, changes in life. And I told her there's this question that I like to ask myself and redirect the attention of the brain to: how is this for my benefit? Like, yes, whatever's happening right now, it's stressful now, but in the future, I might look back on this and be grateful for it. How is this for my benefit? And kind of reframing it. So I love those questions, those
mantras.
I was going to say affirmations. It's similar.
Same.
But in the realm of diabetes, I know you have clients in different areas, but within diabetes, how would you craft a mantra within diabetes improvement, or is it around specific habits like pre-bolusing, or what are your thoughts there?
So the one I like a lot recently that I've been using a lot with my clients recently is I love nourishing my body with healthy food and healthy thoughts. It's very simple, but it gets you committed to enjoying the process of nourishing this temple, right? It keeps you focused on how it will serve you. I love feeling energized from healthy food and peaceful thoughts. The whole goal, really, we think it's the meal plan and we got to fix our food. And yes, 100% necessary. And you can do the same. You give your clients a meal plan, but it's when they get triggered, most people aren't turning to a salad, right? So the goal is to learn how to calm the nervous system so that you don't even get triggered in the first place. And so you can make much more rational choices throughout your day. And then it leads to blood sugar control. It leads to healthier choices. It leads to you wanting to take care of your body because you're in alignment with your purpose. Or there's a lot more deep work that goes around than just nutrition.
I can appreciate that. Yeah, the habits that support the habits.
Exactly.
If I'm taking care of myself, I'll take care of myself, like mentally, then physically. It's fantastic. As that then relates into more of the holistic approach, right? The whole picture. I think that not enough people even know how this differentiates from what they might be getting from their doctor, from their endo. Can you kind of walk us through what makes the holistic approach or even holistic health different?
Yeah. So holistic means you take the whole body into effect. You take the body, the mind, the spirit, right? You take all of it. So what is holistic health? It's clean water, clean air, proper, adequate amounts of food, proper rest and sleep, community, a sense of purpose. Do you feel supported and loved? We take the full picture. Are you doing something that feels like you're in contribution? Are you really here and living out your purpose? Are you serving in a way that is really rewarding and fulfilling? So nutrition is a huge component. Obviously, what you put in your mouth, like what goes into your body, is going to have the biggest effect on your blood sugars. But these other components are essential. How well you sleep is going to determine how well you choose food the next day. Because if you're exhausted, you're going to turn to coffee and a muffin or something sugary to pick you up, or an energy drink full of toxic products and cane sugar maybe. Right? So sleep plays a role. If you feel supported and loved, if you don't, you might be depressed and alone. And what's going to comfort you? Ice cream. right? If you're, so does that make sense? Does that answer your question? I kind of gave you the general topic. Yeah.
No, it does. It's perfect. I think that this is great to kind of compare and contrast where with your average doctor, they're probably going to say, oh, insulin resistance, here's some metformin, right? And you're like, wait, there's got to be a better way than just putting more medication into my bill, right? And it's like, yeah, you could reduce your fat intake, right? You can go exercise more. You can drink more water. There's other ways to make the insulin work better. So I think that's in my head, the big difference is how can I take care of this naturally in a healthy manner without just throwing medications at it? Because while medications may work, they usually come with side effects. It's like, how can I limit the side effects? Oh, I'll just eat healthier. Yes, it's more effort than just taking a pill, but my entire body feels that and I benefit from so many different variables in that sense. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. On the nutrition side, though, there is an important thing that animal products are usually have between 30 and 60% fat. The cheeses, especially the meats, and what sadly comes with most conventional meats and milks and cheeses is a lot of anxiety and depression. And that sounds very maybe woo, but if a cow or an animal has been raised in a really hard environment and they've suffered their entire life, that energy will pass through in the meats and milks, and it can create depression and anxiety in someone, and also then lead to higher sugars because of the comfort food need after that. So there's so many factors that play a role, but yeah, getting the fat down in your diet is essential. And the easiest way, if you are a meat eater, is to reduce that animal products intake, especially cheese. And people turn to fish thinking that might be, leaner, but also fish has higher levels of toxicity, and quite high levels of saturated fat as well. And the reason I bring in toxicity is because if your body is very toxic, your body will hold on to more cells, more fat cells in order to disperse toxicity. Because if you were super lean, you'll have a lot more toxins and less cells. But if you had a lot more fat cells, it could disperse all that toxicity. So one way to lean out is to get things like fish and toxins in your environment out of your environment so that you can reduce then the fat comes off more naturally.
Interesting. Yeah. And, while I know I mentioned earlier, I did do vegan for a while, and while I do eat animal meat now, it is in moderation. Back in the day, I'd have like a pound of chicken for lunch. Now it's like, it's a chicken sandwich. Calm down. I needed to reduce my intake of all food, really. But looking at the detox component, I think it'd be fun to talk about maybe your recent experience and just kind of the detox process. While I've never done a juice cleanse before, I know people are curious about, is that even possible for somebody with type 1? So is that something you can kind of give us kind of an overview of what you went through recently? Absolutely.
A juice cleanse is the ultimate thing you can possibly do for yourself, for anyone, diabetic or not. Fasting it's just like your dog won't eat when he's sick. They won't eat. It's a natural response to cut out the food, because what happens in all that energy that goes to digesting the food goes to healing your cells and detoxifying them. What I advocate is a juice cleanse over a water fast. Water fasting is great for 24 hours. Studies have shown if you can do 24 hours, one day a week, and it can actually look like you're eating every single day, but your dinner is Sunday night is your dinner, and then you don't eat anything until Monday night dinner. You just have water. That has remarkable effects on your biomarkers. Remarkable. I mean, talk about lengthening your life. That's one of the things you could do. But water fasting doesn't give you any nutrition. And so long-term, I don't recommend it. More than 24 hours, I really don't recommend it. A juice cleanse, on the other hand, we are juicing 2 pounds or more of vegetables per juice.
Wow.
You can't eat 2 pounds of vegetables 3 or 4 times a day. Right? It's way too much fiber for your body to digest. But when we take all that fiber out, all your body has to do is absorb those nutrients. And so we're blasting the body with nutrition that it just gets to absorb and then utilize right away to support the cells in detoxifying and removing all the toxicity, and you burn through all the stored fat. So many of us, especially with this American diet, have fat on all of our organs, the visceral fat. If you have fat on the outside, you have fat on the inside. Mm-hmm. That's a harsh reality. If you're showing fat on the outside of your body, what is it? I'm blanking. What's the fat called?
Adipose tissue.
Thank you. If you're showing adipose tissue fat, right? Your belly fat, then you have fat on very likely have fat on your organs.
Right.
And if you're drinking, you have fat on your liver. Mm-hmm. And so it's very important to you have to support the body in getting that fat off of the organs so that they can function optimally for you so that you can survive longer. And so that's what a juice cleanse does. You start burning through all that fat, and then you start detoxifying the body and pulling all the cells. We are bombarded by toxicity. I mean, just sitting on your couch, there's a plume of anti-flame retardants that come out, let alone the food and the air and the water. And, we really are bombarded with toxins these days. So detoxing is essential for everybody. What it will do for diabetics in particular is, again, it will lean you out from the inside, and then you'll become a sugar burning machine. It is so cool. You need way less insulin, and you can then enjoy the things like fruits that you must have in your diet for all the phytochemical reasons that I explained earlier, and the antioxidants. The unexpected side benefit of fasting is you realize that you are a badass, powerful person, because it's the most empowering thing you can do, because you're overriding one of the body's more natural tendencies is to eat. And so if you can override that, it is the most empowering thing. You feel so strong. It's like, if I can do this, I can do anything. It's really cool. It's this like little side bonus thing that happens. But you're blasting, because we're blasting the body with nutrition. You're not hungry. There's a desire to eat because there's on the first day, because you're so used to chewing, but that goes away. And the hunger hormone ghrelin doesn't get released until you take the first bite. As soon as you take your first bite, you're like, okay, feed me. Game over. Game over. I'm ready.
Yeah.
But so I just came off of a 4-day and felt amazing. I mean, if I go to 10 days, I can easily lose 10 pounds. I've lost up to 18 before. And I've gained, you gain a couple pounds after, but leaning out like that does wonders for your body, for your metabolism, for your spirit, for your confidence, all of it. Your whole life changes from a juice fast.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of studies on intermittent fasting or 24-hour fast, even multi-day fast. But like you said, to replace the absence of nutrition with concentrated nutrition, with the juice fast, I think that's a fantastic way to kind of flush the system, get the toxins out, but replace them and not just empty your body. Now, quick question on that. As someone living with type 1, was there a strategy behind dosing for those juiced components?
Yeah, what I noticed is you have to reduce. So my Lantus, for example, that I normally take 16 units in the morning, I had to reduce down to 13.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then you do need some insulin for the juices because it is sugar without fiber. So there's a spike, but because there's no fat in your diet, the spike is actually surprisingly minimal. And those are sugars that you burn through naturally very quickly, just walking around.
Oh, wow.
And so I need, normally I take about between 15 and 20 units of Novolog a day. I go down to probably around 12, maybe 10 to max. Yeah, probably around 10 to 12, maybe. Yeah. So I can virtually cut it in half.
Wow.
And then, there's a whole protocol. So there's juices, there's soups, there's all sorts of things. So, and I highly advocate you must have a coach through this. There's always some kind of juicing crisis. My last diabetic client, her roommate started baking cookies She called me. She's like, the whole house smells like cookies. She's like, I'm
no.
dying. I was like, okay, open all the windows and go for a walk. Like I had to
Right.
yeah. So you need a coach to guide you through because there's going to be tough moments. And yeah, it's essential to have support when you go through this, please.
Absolutely. Well, and guidance too, as you're discussing, which types of vegetables to juice. I'm sure there's a strategy there. It's not just potatoes,
Absolutely.
right?
No potatoes.
I'm curious though, with the juices that you're consuming, what was the caloric difference? Was it a wild difference where it was significantly reduced, or was it pretty similar?
Oh no, because the nuts get taken out. The caloric intake goes way down. Okay. I can't imagine it's over 1,000. Yeah, I don't even think that. Yeah, the caloric intake goes way down.
Sure.
But again, you're full, you're satiated. Your cells are getting more nutrition than they've probably ever gotten. You're not hungry. It's shocking. And actually, you feel so good and so clean, you don't want to eat.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, most of my clients, on the last day, they'll eat something, they'll come off the fast, and they're like, kind of wish I stayed on it.
Interesting. I bet you feel a little bit slowed down after you're eating bigger meals that have more fat and fiber and protein and all that. So that is very interesting.
Yeah, and there's usually 2 days where you actually go through the real deep detoxing. That's when you're getting to the deep toxicity that's stored in your cells. And you'll be tired. Some people get a headache. I mean, I feel the sensation of just wanting to lie down, and I honor my body and I watch movies that day. I don't force, right? And you have to see that as a blessing. A lot of people, that's when you also need coaching, because a lot of people are like, oh, I'm weak, I need food. You're like, no. This is actually we've been wanting this symptom. Mm-hmm. This is what we've been waiting for. And then on the other side of those 2 days, you're the most energized you've ever experienced. You have more energy than you know what to do with. And you haven't eaten in 7 days. And you're doing colonics and more is coming out. And you're like, I haven't eaten in 7 days. How is poop coming out of me? It is mind-blowing how much the body can store. That
is wild.
Yeah.
Well, looks like I have some homework to do, some research.
Good.
I have to look into this some more. Do you take clients through juice cleanses often, or is that just kind of a random one-off thing you've done?
If they're willing, because it takes a commitment, you've got to come in and be committed and ready and be like, it's a decision you have to make with 100% certainty. You can't come in going, yeah, I'll try it. No. If my client is willing and they're really ready to turn their health around, it's a must. It's a starting point that is essential, because what happens when you clean out all of that, you get also an opportunity to reset your taste buds. So you don't need as much sweet, you don't need as much salt. And more importantly, because your body becomes so clean, you get to really be sensitive to what you're eating thereafter. And so when you put something unhealthy in your mouth, it's almost like your reaction is going to be to spit it back out. You're like, I can't eat that fried. I can't eat fried. Like, there's no way. It's so you can taste right away the toxicity. You take alcoholics. I have clients that have drank for 11 years, never missed a day in 11 years. My last client.
Wow.
He took a sip of a martini after we worked together and poured it out. Couldn't do it.
Way to go. That's awesome.
Yeah. He's like, this is poison. I can, it's absolute poison. I cannot do this to my body anymore. Because the body will protect you and desensitize. It's just like a smoker. They can smoke 10 cigarettes in a day, no problem. Once they get that toxicity out of their body, they take one puff, they're choking. Mm-hmm. But in order to keep them alive, they become desensitized to all these toxicity, to all that level of toxicity. Same thing with food, same thing with alcohol. So that the cleanse will then create, you become your own doctor. Mm-hmm. You become like really aware of everything. It's fabulous. It's really fun.
Love that. Well, I mean, obviously, like I said, I've got some homework to do, but this also clearly falls outside of my realm of expertise. So I'm sure there's people watching that are like, dang it, I wish Matt could tell me how to do this, but because I can't, and I won't, because it's outside of what I do, where can people find more info on you? If they're like, I want to cleanse, I want to work on my mindset, like, where would be the best spot to connect with you?
Thank you. So Dr. Nikki Siso, I put some fun things up on TikTok. I try and make them funny and educational. And then drnikkisiso.com, or if they go through you, make sure you guys tell me that you came through Matt, and I will give you guys a special deal. I'll take care of you. And this is a blessing and an honor. It's work that lights me up because it leads to freedom. And diabetes does not feel like freedom initially. It feels like the very, very opposite. It feels like you just got a jail sentence to some degree. Like, right? You're like not allowed to do things that you want to do. That's jail time in a way. You're not free.
Right.
So this actually, it's come to you. Just please know that it's come to you as an opportunity to support you in uncovering some deep work that you get to do, so that you actually, on the other side, is way more freedom than you can imagine, and way more delight. Healthy food can be really delicious. You just have to know what to eat and how to prepare it. And so I teach all of that as well to my clients. After the juice cleanse, they have a whole menu, and I teach them, and it's fun and it's yummy. And they're like, how did I not eat like this my whole life? Mm-hmm. I get energy from food now instead of having to go take a nap. Like, oh, food's supposed to give you energy, not make you exhausted, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Love that. I will say, when I was vegan, I would finish a meal and feel like I could run a marathon. I was like, clean energy, let's go.
Yeah.
It truly is different. So yeah, anybody who's looking for more info on that, definitely check Dr. Nikki out. She's got some great stuff, and I know she'll take care of you. So I wanted to thank you for taking time out of your day, coming to spread your message, giving us some insider knowledge on how to do these things and what goes into it. It means a lot. I appreciate your time today.
Oh, Matt, it's an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you for all that you do. You are showing up big. Yeah, I get your emails, and they're potent. They're full of wisdom. You are supporting people on a deep level, and I'm really, really grateful for you as well. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. My CGM is alerting right now, so there's the interruption.
All right, so maybe an opportunity to honor yourself more. What do you need right now?
Perfect timing. The battery's running out, so this is great. Well, you're awesome, Dr. Nikki. Thank you for your knowledge, your experience, and your kind words. Glad that you're on our email list too. That's fun. I didn't know that. But thank you. Everyone, go check her out. She's got some great stuff. And thank you guys for watching. And we'll catch you guys in next week's episode. Have a great day, everyone. And keep up the fight.